Hello everyone, this is David the Real Why. You're watching 5 Things the George Floyd incident teaches us about modern day America. And before I start, I want to tell everyone that I'm a Turkish guy. I live in Turkey. I've only lived in the United States for 1.5 years. I haven't lived there for a long time, and I'm not a US citizen. So whatever I'm going to be saying here, feel free to take them with a grain of salt, right? You can always take them with a grain of salt. You can say, oh, this guy doesn't live. He doesn't know. He doesn't understand. But at the same time, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't have a dog in this whole controversy. It doesn't really matter to me. So I had that kind of freedom. And so what I might be saying in this video might be helpful, might not be helpful because of that. So for those that need a summary of what happened, we have a white cop, Derek Chauvin, black guy, George Floyd, cop kills the black guy, and we see now riots around the US, starting from Minneapolis. And if you follow US politics, this is nothing new. So this has happened a lot of times these past 5 years. Zimmerman incident and is an example of that. I don't even remember when it happened, but that comes to mind. There's countless others, most likely. And let's start, finally. Number 1, coronavirus is forgotten. Remember media telling you to stay at home, never go outside. It's very dangerous to go outside. You might get sick. Now, rioters are very close to each other. Some of them are not even wearing masks. Some of them are using masks to hide their identity instead. That's what we're seeing right now. So from stay at home, don't social distancing, to now go riot and go crazy, go wild. And it's concerning because media narrative can completely change. The media narrative here has completely flipped over. The same people telling people to stay at home are now supporting these protests and saying, good job, you should be doing this. And at the same time, the churches are still closed though. You can't go to churches, but you can go riot and you can go flip cars and burn convenience stores. That's completely fine. And I think this kind of weird scenario is something that we might take away from. Number 2, rioting helps absolutely no one except the people that wants this to happen. So I don't believe that there is institutionalized racism in the United States. I might be wrong. And if there is one, I will probably say that it's against white people rather than any other races. However, for the sake of argument, let's say that I completely 100% believe that there's institutionalized racism against black people in the United States. It's very obvious, it's very clear. Everyone can understand and see it. How does rioting and looting your own communities help your fight against it? Think about it for a couple seconds and you will realize that it doesn't help you at all. Rioting your own communities, I don't think I have to say this, but rioting, looting your own communities, your own big businesses, especially the small businesses, right? The people that are literally on the same team as you are and trying to provide for you, trying to provide food for you, a job for you, right? Income. You're destroying that because of something that they didn't do. And what that's going to cause is that you're just damaging yourself and you're making yourself weaker against this powerhouse that is institutionalized racism. Now, you might say, these people might say, oh, well, it's about sending a message. Well, what's the message that you have sent? I will destroy my own community and get really mad when something like this happens the next time. That's the message. Do you think the people that you're against will be scared? Oh no, they're going to attack and damage their own communities. The communities that we're trying to put down ourselves. Do you think that's going to help? Of course not, obviously. Number 3, we're seeing this quite extensive narrative of we built this, right? From a lot of black activists, especially. It's mainly their narrative is that, oh, we built this country, and because we built this country, we can tear it down, right? And I want to kind of get a little bit presuppositional in here and kind of critique this position. Now, in order to be able to take credit, right? Let's completely accept this view that, yeah, black people built the United States. All right, let's take that assumption. Well, in order to take credit for something, that presupposes responsibility, right? Because in order to be legitimately taking credit for something, you need to be responsible over something. And thus, you can take credit for it. If you weren't responsible, then you can't be blamed for it, but you can't take credit either, right? Because you're just not responsible over it. So if I do something, a Chinese guy in China is not responsible for it. He has zero responsibility. If I go against what my parents say, my parents aren't responsible. I am responsible for it, unless I'm 10 years old or something. So I think I made this point clear. And where I'm trying to get at is that the problem here is you can ask the same people, well, how do you believe, like, what direction is America going? Do you think that this is a great country? Do you think that people rioting and looting are going to say, oh yeah, I love this country, it's amazing? Obviously not. They're going to say, there's a huge problem in this country. Oh, this is a mess. This country is a mess. But if you're going to take credit for building the United States, well, that's the country you have built. So you should also simultaneously take responsibility for it. Therefore, America being bad is your fault as well. Now, I don't believe in this. I'm just pointing out that if we were to take this understanding, then logically speaking, we will have to blame black people for making America like this, right? For having America be like this, if we were to take their understanding. Now, this understanding of the laborer taking all the credit for the good things and the guy behind him always being the person that exploits him is textbook Marxism. It's 100% textbook Marxism. So you start to see that Marxism and anti-racist activism go hand in hand together very powerfully. And some conservatives have realized that, some of them haven't. Number 4, every single one of you, every person is a racist. What I mean by that, I'm not being ironic, nor am I making a boomer take saying, oh, the Democrats, they're the real racist, we're the anti-racist, my wife's Filipino. I'm not making that point either. What point I'm making here is this. Let's take the definition of what racism is before we start. Racism, a very basic definition that will be applicable to the real world, is judging someone based on their skin color, right? I'm using your terminology or their terminology, whatever side you're on. So if you judge someone by the way they're going to act based on their skin color, well, you're being racist, right? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I might be corrected in the future, or I can be corrected even now, but to my knowledge, the police officer that killed George Floyd didn't really exhibit any particularly racist behavior, right? Killing someone of another race is not a racist behavior in and of itself unless there's a clear intent that we can see. I'm sure a lot of people will agree with that. And so this whole thing was sparked on the part of the people's observation of this event and them claiming it's racism. What's really ironic is that this is racist in and of itself. Here's another example. Let's say that, Derek Chauvin is going to get trialed. And let's say the jurists are all white, right? Every single one of them are white. Well, that's a problem. If they're all white, well, what are you going to guess? Well, they're going to say institutionalized racism. But if they're all black, then doesn't that raise some eyebrows? Suddenly it's going the other way around. And if it's mixed race, then that's literally acknowledging the problem. Like if you deliberately make it mixed race to avoid this, then you're just acknowledging the problem that's going on. And once more, for example, it's an all-white jury, and they say, oh, you didn't really do much wrong, you're completely fine. Well, a lot of people are going to say, well, that's racist. But they're literally judging the jury by their skin color. They're judging what the juries are going to judge on this incident based on the skin color of the jury. How is that not racism? Please, someone explain that to me. Maybe I'm missing something very obvious, but I think that this kind of when you start to look at and understand it this way, every side is really affirming racism. And unless people be honest with themselves and accept this, there can never really be a real dialogue on this, unless people say, yes, this is what's going on, and just accept it. Number 5, this is going to be the last one. This is basically me stealing this tweet from a mutual of mine. Got viral because Paul Joseph Watson and Stefan Mahler retweeted it. Definitely read Nihilism by Father Seraphim Rose, by the way. He makes a great point. He says, when black people get killed by police, they burn down towns. When white people get murdered by illegal immigrants and gang members, they make angry social media posts and podcasts. Now, this guy himself, Jeb, he himself noted that my point was to actually praise black people for doing this. And I agree with him, because it showcases that we might critique black people for what they have done in this incident or any other racial group, but I will say that one thing that we can take away from them is that they really do care about their community in that sense, right? You can critique, well, the actions they take might be wrong, but there's still some sort of they do get angry at stuff that happens against them. Whereas, the same things happen for white people as well, and they don't really care what's going on. All they do is podcast. You remember last time they went outside and rioted like white people explicitly? Yeah, Charlottesville. Remember what happened? Yeah, it sucked, and it was a disaster. So, I think there's also an important point to mention, is that it really puts into perspective what different races think about each other, but also what races think about themselves. And this is connected with point number 4, because this whole thing, I can't imagine someone consistently calling themselves, I'm colorblind, right? I don't think you can be colorblind and then take this perspective of racial solidarity of these different races and say, yeah, I'm colorblind and this is completely fine. And it really helps you understand what Morgan Freeman meant by, he was in an interview and he said, he was asked some kind of like a racial question, and he said, well, if you want to solve racism, then let's not talk about it. I'm black, you're white. That's it. Let's just not talk about it. And Morgan Freeman, I believe, gets what I'm getting at. He completely understands. Basically, what I'm saying is what Morgan Freeman is basically saying in that incident is that the only real way you can actually pretend to be colorblind is if you just literally never talk about this. Never at all. But people always do talk about this, and they feel like they have to talk about this. But that itself presupposes race, racial relations, that the fact that races exist. All of these things are very inconvenient for the colorblind person. And these things have to be noted. Now, where do I stand on this? No comment. I'm not gonna comment on them. Maybe not yet. Maybe I might not. But this is not the video to do it. This is about something else. This is about what I'm seeing in this incident, what it's showing to us, what direction it is going to. And if you want a more nuanced political take, I wish I could direct you to somewhere that I will approve, but I honestly don't know, because I don't watch political podcasts or alt media people, and I definitely don't watch mainstream politicians. Neither should you ever. Completely, 100%, no matter what side you're on these things. Thank you all for watching this till the end. Thank you all for listening to me ramble about this stuff for 14 minutes. I really do appreciate it. If you like this stuff, I can't promise you similar content, but I can promise you a lot of Christian theology. And so if that's what you want, then you feel free to subscribe, and for the occasional videos like this one. If you like this video, you can always click like. If you want to comment and give your own insights, make sure to comment it and tell about it. I don't check comments really often, but sometimes I do, and if something really interests me, I might pin it and I might heart it, of course. And that's it, really. Thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. God be with you all. Thank you.